What's up? Hi, hello everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 48. I am so excited. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and wowza, what a premiere episode! I really liked that episode. I thought it was so fun. I always love when we get the 2 hour premieres just because it's like you get to see so much more than you do with like a regular 1 hour episode, especially when there's this many people. It's super, super nice to have all of that time to kind of get to know everyone, figure out who's going to be a big player so far, and yeah, just generally have a good time.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun episode. It's always cool to see if our initial reactions of the castaways from our cast assessment and tribe assessments are coming true or if we're completely wrong. I always think the premieres are more fun than the finales because everything right now is like new and fun and spicy. I feel like once we hit the finale, it's sort of like, okay, we probably know who the winner is here.
Yeah, I feel like just generally this is a fun time because there's just so much possibility. The world is our oyster. So I'm really excited to see kind of where things go.
So we start off this episode. I thought it was so cool that we got to see the castaways' reaction to getting the call that they were casted on Survivor at the beginning. I really liked this. I thought it was so cute. Usually we see people might post it on social media if they happen to film it, but I really liked that everyone got theirs on the front of this episode. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, I thought it was so nice. It was just also really cool to like see everyone's excitedness to be on Survivor because I feel like when people are like, "Oh, I've wanted to be on Survivor since I was a kid" or whatever, like it's hard to believe it all the time, but then you see them being like, "OMG, I'm on Survivor," and suddenly like it makes a lot more sense that they're like, you know, super psyched about it. So,
It makes me excited for them. It makes me excited for like me. I was like, oh, I could totally envision myself in your shoes. Like I'm living vicariously through you by watching your reaction video get on there. Like, oh, hopefully one day that could be me having that reaction video also. I thought it was so cool.
yeah, I thought it was so cool, especially because they did talk a lot at the first Matt chat about, what inspired them the moment that they decided they wanted to be on Survivor. So it just felt very relatable.
Exactly. So at the Mets, we learned the three tribes, the sun, the moon, and then I thought Jeff was going to say the stars for the last tribe, but then he says the entire sky. I was like, okay, I feel like the stars, if they picked the word for stars, would fit better here.
Yeah, maybe the word for stars is just too similar to the other words, or like it sounds like a bad word, or something where they were like, maybe we shouldn't use the stars, just because I feel like sun, moon, and stars does make a lot more sense than sun, moon, and sky. But
Yeah, maybe it's not 4 letters long.
I will say though, I feel like most of the time I do not call the tribes by their tribe names. I call them by their tribe color. So, like if you tell me that one tribe is doing this or that, I'm going to be like, "And which color was that tribe?" Cuz yeah, I don't
No,
remember.
I agree. Usually call it by the colors unless it's like a very memorable tribe name or I guess like they got a very solid tribe alliance that calls their alliance by the tribe name, but usually I agree. We go by the colors, makes it easier.
Yeah, especially when they do kind of all sound the same because like the two syllable names, mm, mm, I feel like they all blend together in my head.
So we get to the marooning challenge. The first challenge, always so fun. Here they have to go under the muddy net, get a heavy chest, and then three people go to the top of the big ramp, get a key, and then the final three tribe members have to land the sandbags. Jeff says that that crate that they're dragging is several hundred pounds. I thought that was cool to include because sometimes we don't really know how heavy these things are. So I'm glad that he let us know. So it's not just like, oh, this is like 50 pounds, but like, no, this thing is very, very heavy.
Yeah, I sometimes think it's hard too because sometimes later in the game they'll do it like by proportion, like they'll have it be like, oh, you're going to be lifting your body weight at the start of the season, so just having a flat number is also a little bit different. So
True. We see Kevin hurt his shoulder in the first few minutes of this challenge, and I was like, oh no, this is maybe not looking so good for Kevin, but he did turn it around by the end of the episode. I was a little scared when we first started that Kevin might get injured or taken out or sort of like flop because he gets injured, but I'm glad he turned it around by the end of the episode.
yeah, I will say that it seems like it's becoming a theme that people are getting injured or almost injured, like on the first challenge, just because I feel like we've seen it for the past couple um just seasons. I feel like where someone either freaks out or gets actually injured the first challenge. I wonder what's up with that.
And must not have been too bad. We didn't see medical come out and check Kevin out. Maybe they did off camera and we just didn't see it,
They
but
did off camera,
okay. 'Cause I
so
was like, oh, maybe it's like a Stephanie LaGrossa. He like pulled out his shoulder going under the net, but unfortunately not.
I think that actually is what happened, but because they like popped it back in, it was kind of like, okay, we're moving on now. So
See, I feel like that would have been great TV.
I guess there was just like not enough time for it because I feel like all of this other stuff that was in this episode kind of needed to be in the episode. So spending like 5 minutes on his dislocated shoulder would have taken away 5 minutes from some other thing.
But we see purple team, they are super far ahead. The other two teams seem to be struggling when they're getting up that ramp. Cedric specifically gets called out for struggling on the ramp, so that will be interesting moving forward. Seems like as of now he's in a solid alliance, but he was definitely called out by Jeff a lot on the ramp.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes that happens where Jeff kind of just like picks on someone. And I'm like, come on, Jeffrey. Because I know we talked a little bit last season of like, can Jeff affect people's opinions of other people on their tribe? And so I was kind of like, don't be calling Cedric out.
Yeah, this is ageism. But the purple tribe, they win the tribe supplies. Only first place here wins anything. And then the other two teams have to do the second challenge. Seems like there's no more Sweat and Savvy for now. Last season, we didn't see a Sweat versus Savvy. This season, we're not seeing it as well. So seems like in the near future, maybe no Sweat versus Savvy, but you send two people to do this journey against each other at this other island.
Yeah, and I will say I kind of liked this one better because I felt like it was a better like test of people's abilities because I feel like in order to do this you had to kind of both be willing to sweat and be kind of savvy because they had to go through a series of obstacles and it was kind of like you get through the obstacles in whatever way you can and then, the strategy that you use can determine whether or not you succeed. So you do have to be both smart and strong to do it.
I agree. I thought this was fun. It was funny seeing Kyle just knock down the whole bamboo stick to get the pot versus Kevin was doing what you'd see in like immunity challenges when you're trying to get a key on the bamboo poles. I was gonna feel really bad for Kevin here if he lost this for his tribe. I feel like it puts him in a very dangerous spot. First, getting injured in the first challenge, and then here, if he didn't bring back the camp supplies, might be very much seen as a liability. So I was sort of worried for Kevin here. And then I was so shocked when Kyle broke his water jug. I was like, oh gosh, I did not even expect that. I think that could happen.
Yeah, it reminded me of there was some Final Four challenge where Jake broke his like
Mhm.
Final Four apparatus. And so that was kind of like how he could no longer win the Final Four challenge. And it kind of reminded me of that, except for much lower stakes. Like this, like not sweat versus savvy challenge. Like, yeah, it sucks that he didn't get the flint, but it's not like Final Four level suckery. So
Yeah, and I thought it was just so nice after Kyle broke his jug that he then goes over and helps Kevin fill up his jug. I was like, wow, Hopefully they can make it to a merge or a tribe swap or something that maybe they can work together. Maybe this sort of bonds them together a little bit. I just thought it was like, oh, dang, okay. Kyle's a good person. He's going to go help Kevin. Because, like he said, sitting there doesn't really help anyone.
Yeah, it felt like very much a character moment for Kyle of like you're seeing who this person is outside of the game that they are willing to like, just pitch in and help because they can. And I think that's always really nice because sometimes we see people very much as game bots, but I feel like the first day of the game like yourself probably that you're ever going to be. And so I really like that for Kyle and it made me like him a lot more.
True. For me, if I were out there on Survivor, I probably wouldn't like volunteer to go on this challenge. I also, hopefully, if they're gonna make you draw rocks, I'd be like, oh, please, I do not really want that rock. I feel like going to this challenge when you're the only person, you're going to get isolated potentially. You're soloed out, definitely. It's really that like hero versus loser moment. And then this is the first time everyone else is bonding. The other 5 are going back to camp together. You are getting sent off somewhere else, and then you come back to camp all muddy after everyone else has already washed off. I think it's sort of I'd be so scared if I got sent on it. It just, like, isolates you so much.
Yeah, I would be scared too, especially like if you are Kevin and you're like trying to make up for something wrong that you did, that would be extra special scary. So I feel like it's one of those things where, ugh, I just would not like it. Kyle said something about like, I don't mind coming to a party late, but I feel like I do mind coming to a party late. I always show up 15 minutes early. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because last season when we saw this, TK and Asia both went on this journey and then they're both voted out subsequently afterwards off their tribes, which could be part of like their personality and their tribe. But also, I think it'll be very interesting to see this season if the pattern maybe starts. So it'll like we'll have to keep an eye out for Kyle and Kevin. Right now, seems like Kevin might be in a good spot. But maybe if his team keeps losing and his arm does act up more, then maybe could get voted out. But I definitely do want to keep an eye on this. So if it starts to be a pattern where the people go on this journey get voted out early, then I definitely don't want to go on this journey.
Yeah, yeah, I also don't wanna go on this journey, but I know we're gonna talk more later, but it feels like Kevin is probably not on the bottom of his tribe right now. Like, we see some other stuff, so.
So going into the purple tribe dynamics, we see Thomas, he talks a lot about bonding and forming a men's alliance, which he didn't expect with Shaheen and Joe. They call themselves the California Girls because they're all from California. I thought this was cute. I liked the name.
Yeah, I hope that it's a reference to the Katy Perry song because that is funny to me. But if that is the case, then everyone should be spelling it California Girls with a U. I know that they can't sing copyrighted music on the island, so we will never know if it is actually a reference to the Katy Perry song, but like in my heart, it is. So.
Me too. In my notes, I wrote California Girls, girls with a U. I think in the, like, subtitles, it had girls with an I, but that could just be the person typing it. And maybe you can't call yourself the song on television as your team name kind of thing. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Alyssa. I said girls with a U in my notes.
Yeah, so it also could just be I know one of the things on the television show The Circle when they had like people like transcribing the conversation, it's just like if the person didn't know that particular bit of pop culture, then they would transcribe it wrong. So maybe the person who is transcribing the episode just did not know about California Girls with a U.
Yeah, so the men here in purple team seem to be leading the charge, and then we see that Thomas really likes Bianca. Three-person men's alliance, not really, it's not the majority. You need to bring in someone else. Thomas likes Bianca, but we also see Shaheen and Joe really like Eva a lot. So it will be very interesting to see, okay, who gets brought on in as the fourth, but I feel like purple might not lose, so it might not end up being a problem.
Yeah, I don't feel like purple's going to lose, but also I'm kind of like, if you are the fourth person brought into the boys' alliance, don't you kind of go, hmm, it seems like maybe the three of them like each other better than they like me. I do think it's interesting because, like, with the purple alliance, we don't really see like whether the boys feel more allegiance to each other or to their like girl partner that they have. So I would be curious to see how that like shakes out if they do end up having to go to vote.
True. I feel like right now, if Purple did lose, it seems like everyone would be on the same page of voting Star out. We saw that she was looking for idols and also called out by everyone as someone that was looking for idols. And like Bianca, Eva could get into the men's alliance, but it seems like Star is maybe the first person out on this tribe if they went to tribal tomorrow.
Yeah, but again, I'm not sure that they're going to go to tribal, so does it matter?
True, they might try to throw a challenge. I could see like someone like Thomas wanting to throw a challenge to try to eliminate people. But yeah, this is a very strong team. They won first place in both of the challenges. So I'm like, for my fantasy draft, I sort of want to pick these people since they probably won't lose.
Yeah, I would also want to pick these people. I hope that they don't throw a challenge though. That would be dumb.
Yeah, so we also see Eva share her autism story with Joe. I really liked this segment. Eva picking Joe as a person to tell, like, literally, he is the perfect person to tell here. It was sort of scary. It's like, okay, we don't really know Joe that well thus far. He could maybe try to use it against her later in the game or share her secret against her will. But it seems like Joe really wants to do everything he can to help Eva out, even putting his own game on the line. And I was like, dang, wow, Joe is a really good person.
Yeah, I think also just like the way that it was shared, it was very much like a moment of vulnerability. And
Hmm.
I feel like also just like they were both very frank with each other of like, this is what I need, this is what I can give you. Okay, solid. Let's move on. But yeah, I feel like there's kind of a continual theme of this episode of like seeing the players as people and them just being really like stand up people in addition to being like interesting survivor players.
Literally, it really makes me like Joe and Eva, both of them, and also really makes me want to root for their friendship. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love these two.
Yeah, I also love them. So fingers crossed they go far. I feel like my problem so far with this season is that I don't really dislike anyone yet. So
So we go to the Orange Tribe. I'm glad that Camilla isn't the odd one out, like I was predicting preseason. But we see David, Chrissy, Camilla, and Kyle create a four-person alliance. They're sort of bonding over Camilla, stirring the pot, throwing Charity under the bus. And I was like, okay, dang, Camilla's good. We saw her as the like smallest, least athletic person of the group. She recognizes that and she's trying to get someone out else in front of her to be the first person out of this tribe. So I was like, dang, good for you.
good for you. But I think also it sometimes feels a little bit premature when people start throwing out names before anybody actually loses. Because I'm like, maybe you're never going to go to tribal and now you've just ended up making an enemy for no reason. I'm kind of like, maybe wait until you've lost or at least don't do it like the very first day because I feel like if you've lost once then you kind of like have that rhythm of like this is how we talk about who's getting voted out. Once you vote out one person, I feel like the next vote out becomes a little easier to like see the path you want to go down. But I feel like just randomly starting to throw out names when you haven't even lost yet is kind of just silly to me.
Hopefully it works out for Camilla and it's not too premature that when they do lose, then they're like, oh, Camilla, you said you were trying to throw Charity under the bus. But it does seem like hopefully it'll work out for her here. It does seem like, okay, Charity said Kyle's name first, and Camilla is running with that. And obviously Kyle won't like that. And it's not just like, oh, Camilla made up a lie, but Charity did say it, and then Kyle was getting bad vibes from Charity. Chrissy was getting bad vibes from Charity as not like she's not talking to us about strategy. So like Seemingly, they're all on the same page because they're bonding over this shared dislike or uneasiness with Charity. So hopefully it doesn't backfire on Camilla for stirring the pot a little bit here. But it's like, okay, they all firsthand see something that they don't want in an alliance partner or team member. So it's not just like, okay, Camilla's making up lies.
Yeah, it's not just Camilla's making up lies, but also things can shift very quickly on Survivor. So I feel like generally bringing up voting when you don't need to bring up voting, not a good strategy.
We see Kyle and Camilla, they have a lot in common with like the favorite movies, their backgrounds, their dads. So it's like, okay, cool. Maybe they will be a good alliance partnership duo here. But also, they talked about a lot of their commonalities in front of other people. So that might paint a target on their backs too.
Hmm.
So low key right now seems like Charity is the odd one out. If they were to go to tribal tomorrow from the edit this week, seems like Charity could get voted out here. We also see Kyle say Charity likes her steak done medium well, so we need to vote her out because that's like psychopath tendencies. I thought that was very interesting to include because it's like, okay, just how you like your food done doesn't really mean anything, but they included it in the edit, so I paid attention to it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where we always talk about how sometimes in Survivor, you just need an excuse to vote somebody out. And if the excuse is they like their steak medium well, I guess that's the excuse. But one thing I did think was really interesting is that David came across as cocky, but not gratingly so. I feel like in the edit, like there are some times when he said stuff, and I was just like, what are you saying? Like his whole thing about like you can tell everything you need to know about their favorite movie, the car they drive, and how they like their steak. I was like, dude, what are you saying? But I guess how they like their steak did become a subject of conversation.
It's sort of giving like, "Oh, I'm this very attractive guy, so because of that, I'm often like, what's the word? Like, estimated in a weird way, like, people look at me one way, but I view myself a different way. Because then he's like, "Oh, people just think I'm hot, but really, I like rom-coms." It's like, "Okay, I guess that makes sense." And then in the preview for next week, they're like, "Oh, you've got multiple nipples, like, God is fair." So it's like, it seems like he's coming across like, "Oh, I'm just this hot jock, but actually I've got substance."
I've got layers, but I also feel like liking rom coms is not very much a layer. So
That's also a weird thing to say. And like maybe they're thinking he's giving himbo energy, so bring him along.
yeah, kind of like Kevin, who got called a golden retriever.
Kevin is doing the himbo energy very well. I'm surprised because we talking preseason, like, okay, sometimes himbo energy might give like dum dum and not be good and be very annoying, but Kevin is doing himbo good.
Yeah. I don't think it's a calculated himbo, but you know it's working for him.
So we see Say on the green team. She finds the Beware advantage. I thought this was a very fun and cool Beware advantage. I like the puzzle where you have to match the colors of the symbols that are hidden all around camp, and then you have to puzzle and unscramble the letters in order to get the word. And it does seem like each beach will get a different kind of word puzzle, but I really thought this puzzle was cool.
Yeah, I thought the puzzle was cool, but like you said, at the other beach, all of the letters were black and like all of the symbols and stuff were black. So I'm kind of like, what are they going to do on that beach? But I thought it was a pretty cool um, puzzle in general. I like that it had kind of multiple steps where both you had to
Mhm.
figure out the like what the numbers meant and then also like what the colors meant and then it was a word scramble even after you had figured that out. So it was cool.
Yeah, Say tells all of the men who is her alliance on the green team. She asks them for help. She needed help because she couldn't figure it out on her own, and she like hates Jeff for that. But also because it was a difficult puzzle, her asking the guys for help definitely cemented trust within their alliance. Because if someone's telling you about this, sharing all the clues, asking you to help them figure it out, definitely even if you don't trust them fully, you're going to be like, oh, I might want to keep you around at least a little bit because you shared this information with me. And I think that helped her this episode. It would be interesting to see if someone could figure this out totally alone or if everyone on all the three tribes asks people for help.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's only 6 letters, which I feel like wouldn't be that difficult to figure out on your own. I always wonder with combinations like these, like, do they have a limited number of attempts? Because I feel like with only 6 letters, like, there's not that many different combinations if you know that you're looking for a real word. So, mm. But I think as far as like telling other people about it, sometimes that can be good because it makes you seem manipulatable, easily manipulated, I guess would be a better way to say it. Because it's like, this dum dum doesn't even know that you should keep this to yourself. But I don't think that was where people's minds were going, but it could be.
I agree. Can be a double-edged sword. I feel like in this episode, her sharing the information cemented her and the guys together. But like we'll say at the end of the episode, I feel like going into future weeks might not be too good because even here, the guys were thinking, oh, she's powerful and she's smart. Maybe we can't keep her around. So definitely a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
But say she gets the idol, she unlocks the code, so she does not lose her vote this episode. And I thought it was interesting that this wasn't a like one tribal, two tribal, three tribal idol like we saw last season, but this is just a regular full-fledged idol.
Yeah. I I don't know what to think about the wear advantages because it seems as time goes on, they're getting like less and less tooth. Where it's like doing this challenge was a lot more, it was a lot easier than like the challenges where like you had to wait for everyone to say like the secret code phrase. And then like with the idol thing, like you said, now it's like an unlimited idol where previously you had to do more steps to get the idol, and it's kind of like, come on, don't just go handing these things out willy-nilly. The fact is that the beware advantage is supposed to be something that you are beware of, not something that you're just like, maybe it'll take me an afternoon, you know?
Jeff giving it out like candy, as we say later in the season when they just get rehidden so often. But I agree. I feel like now with the Boyware advantages, we don't really see people lose their vote anymore because of it, which I would say is a good thing because losing your vote here is sort of annoying, especially when the tribes are so small. But I also agree, it's not really like a true Beware advantage because there's less risk if you've seen, okay, recent seasons, people find it in an afternoon or 1 or 2 days before they even go to tribal council, you don't really need to be bewared because you don't really have that risk of losing your vote. So maybe they do need to make it harder, but also maybe not make the penalty of losing your vote.
Yeah. So, hmm, hmm. I think it will be interesting because, as always, the more people that know that you have an idol, the less useful an idol becomes. And I think 3 other people know about this idol, or at least know that she was looking for it. So, kind of like, how is that going to shake out? Will it actually be useful to have an idol?
Yeah, only Mary technically doesn't know. And maybe someone spills the beans to Mary next time because they don't want Mary to get voted out.
Yeah. Oh, Mary. I feel like she was one of the people who we saw less of this episode compared to the other ones. So I'm interested to see if she comes a little bit more forward this next episode.
So we get to the immunity challenge. It is a big obstacle course, and then you have to do the survivor puzzle logo at the end. And it was so close at the end. I thought this was pretty wild. Green catches up to orange, but then orange catches back up, and then green is like practically pushing their entire puzzle out of the frame, and the pieces might flop out, and then orange wins. It was crazy.
It was crazy. I was kind of hoping that Green's puzzle would like fall all the way down just because I feel like we haven't seen that where people get like
Yeah.
close to the end and then those vertical puzzles fall over. But that is like one of the dangers of a puzzle like that. So
Purple crushing it again. They were solidly in first place, so they won both challenges this episode. And then Orange, Close with green, but orange does pull out the win. That's all you need. Just gotta have not be the loser, basically. Just gotta beat one team.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that orange won over green, I felt like was kind of not inevitable. I really thought that green was going to be able to finish their puzzle in time, but they were just really slow with that puzzle.
Yeah, so we go to the Green Tribe. We see Say talking with the women throughout the episode, and she doesn't really like talking with Mary and Stephanie. She's like, oh, they're just talking about the get to know you game, trying to get to know each other, but I want to play like an out front game. So she goes and talks with the men, and basically, if you watch any scenes with like Say and the other two women on her tribe, she's like almost rolling her eyes when she's listening to them talk.
Yeah. Uh, it's always funny to say, like, said from the beginning, like, I have a big mouth that's going to get me in trouble. And I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, I have a big mouth, but then they can actually shut their mouth. But, like, say really cannot. And I thought that was really funny. I think it is kind of setting her up, though, I feel like, to be the next person out. But I guess we'll talk more about that when we talk about their tribal council.
Low key, I agree. And I was sort of sad that Say didn't like the women because preseason tribe reactions, I was like, oh, we might have an all women's alliance here. These people might want to work together. But alas, no. Say goes and forms a four-person alliance with the other men on her tribe. And I thought it was very interesting in terms of like watching it a second time, like the foreshadowing a little bit. But Stephanie says early in the episode, okay, time will tell who has the better strategy. Her strategy of making connections compared to Say's strategy of being more hardcore. I thought this was foreshadowing that maybe Stephanie's strategy would come out on top because she says it, but we get an answer to it this episode, and Say's strategy wins the day here. And then later in the episode, Stephanie says, right before Tribal, that she's feeling the negatives of playing a less aggressive game and not being the one calling the shots. So maybe there she's like, oh, Say being more out there, more hardcore in her alliance forming might have been the better move here. And I feel like we've heard from a lot of Survivor contestants in the new era where they've said because it's so short, the game moves so fast, you might have only 2 days between tribals. It's less time for connection making compared to the 39-day game. So you just got to jump right into it.
I do feel like, though, it might end up being foreshadowing that neither of their strategies really work, and you need to have a balance of the two. Because, like I said, I feel like Say is kind of setting herself up to be voted out by kind of being overly strategic, like coming on really strong, not really seeming to care what other people think of her, and like not really having any time for social niceties. Like, yeah, maybe you want to talk strategy, but also you should probably like get to know people as people, because if you have the choice between voting out someone who you like and someone who you're kind of ambivalent on, you're going to choose to vote out the person you don't like as much. So I do
True.
think that that like kind of head to head battle is going to continue even though Stephanie is gone.
I agree. And I feel like we sort of saw it a little bit last season. Yeah, I feel like we saw it a little bit last season, oh well, as well. What was her name? Let me Google this.
I have
With
no idea what you're talking about.
with Genevieve not making those like super close bonds with people. If that is how Say is playing, we might see that kind of like head versus heart like storyline play out. I do agree. I feel like Say probably might even be the next person voted out of this tribe. I could see Say getting voted out over Mary if they went to tribal next week.
Yeah, I could definitely see Say getting voted out over Mary. I can't believe you forgot Genevieve's name.
I'm like, there's so many things are blending together.
Yeah, seasons kind of all become a schmear, so
Yeah, we see after the immunity challenge, Stephanie takes accountability for flubbing on the puzzle. People are sort of mad at her for stepping up and then messing up on the puzzle. It was interesting that Stephanie got a lot of the heat here and Kevin didn't really get any heat that we saw in the episode, even though Kevin also was on the puzzle and they both lost together. So I think the moral of the story, as we've seen, don't step up for the hero role unless you win it, then that's good. But if you're gonna
Yeah.
lose it, which is always hard to tell, you don't want to step up for it because it really just people didn't like Stephanie anyway, so they're like, oh, she messed up the puzzle. Let's vote her out. People liked Kevin, so him messing up the puzzle didn't make them like dislike him because they like him.
Yeah. I think also though, it's one of those things where like throughout the challenge there were things that could have gone better to make it so like the puzzle people had more time, for example. Like the purple tribe just like flew through the whole thing, and it's like if you were that dominant, it wouldn't matter if you had like one or two puzzle pieces in the wrong place. You would have time to like take a breath and redo them. So like you said, it really did feel like Stephanie was kind of the scapegoat.
It's sort of just, oh, a reason to vote someone out. It's only day 3. We don't really have much to go on. Ah, you messed up on the puzzle. Hee hee. Now we have a reason to vote you out. That's how it feels like. But yeah, these are team challenges. Technically, okay, yeah, if you're a little faster on certain parts, it would have given the puzzle people more time. And they were already behind, and then they caught up and surpassed Orange, and then Orange caught back up to them. So it was very, very close. I feel like you can't just totally blame them, but obviously, okay, you got to vote someone out. This is an easy reason to vote someone out.
It is. So, sucks to be Stephanie, but also someone is always going to be the first person voted out.
As she said herself. So Mary and Stephanie, they want to vote out Say. Kevin and Justin here are in a very good spot in the middle. I like Justin's pizza shirt. That definitely is playing down the Yale graduate with a pizza shirt, but Kevin and Justin are in a very good spot.
I will say I was kind of disappointed that Justin was not more like Jelinski, like making pizza his whole personality. Though his pizza metaphor at Tribal I did enjoy.
What did he say?
He was talking about how sometimes like someone calls in with a pizza and you're like, I don't know if these toppings work together, but then those toppings do work together. I forget why he had brought up that metaphor, but he did make a pizza metaphor.
See, that's funny. People just be like, this guy, maybe not so smart. Just pizza, pizza, pizza. But he's a smart guy.
Mhm.
But I think for Kevin and Justin here, it does really make sense to go with Say, especially on this first vote. Say trusted you with all of the idol information, and Say has the power because she has the idols. Sort of reminded me of last season with Rome, where they're sort of like, okay, Rome's got all the stuff. We sort of are forced to go with him because you can't really go against the person with all the advantages. And you keep saying now because she's powerful and she trusts you, but also you realize that she is powerful, so you should vote her out.
Yeah. But I think also it's one of those things where you need to pick your battles, like pick who you're going to fight for. And Stephanie was like not really someone worth fighting over in the sense that like she was fine, she was nice, but she wasn't like either of their like number ones.
True. And so if Mary can make some more bonds, she might be able to beat Say out if they do go to tribal next time because Kevin and Mary seem to have a tight bond. Kevin maybe hopefully will fight for Mary, but yeah, Stephanie, no one's really willing to put their neck out for her, but with Mary being the person on the bottom going into next week, she needs to create some social bonds so that maybe Kevin, maybe someone else will put their neck on the line for her to try to keep her around.
Yeah.
So we go to tribal council. Stephanie and Say are bickering at tribal. Stephanie and Say are both air signs. And then Say says she doesn't really like other air signs usually. And then they're bickering about the stars and then calling Stephanie out. And then Say's like, let's stop talking about stars.
Yeah. I didn't really get the whole air sign thing because I thought Say was like, "Oh yeah, air signs are really indecisive," but I'm like, if you're an air sign and you're decisive, then not all air signs are indecisive then. Like, I don't know. I feel like in general, I don't really believe in astrology, and so people putting so much stock into it, I'm kind of like, bro, just say you don't like each other. We don't need to say that it's because you're air signs. Some people's personalities just aren't compatible.
True. Maybe that's why Say was rolling her eyes when the women were talking about astrology.
She obviously seems to believe it too, though.
True. I'm like, I don't know what sign I am. So be like, oh, okay, new information. This is interesting.
Hmm.
But Stephanie must have been feeling the heat because she does play her shot in the dark. It does not hit, so votes cast for her count, and Stephanie gets voted out here, besides Mary voting for Say.
Hmm. It is interesting that Mary kind of like threw that shot at Say because I assumed that she knew that Stephanie was going to be the one going home. So it's like, again, why are we stirring the pot? But hopefully we'll get to hear from Mary at the beginning of next episode.
I feel like maybe Mary didn't know. It seemed like her jaw was dropped. Like she looked shocked at tribal council when the votes were read. Because I agree. I feel like if you felt the tides weren't going in your favor, like maybe Stephanie was always going to play the shot in the dark because if it is 4-2, it just be 3-2. It doesn't really matter if you played it or not, kind of thing. But then maybe your alliance members would be like, "Why don't you trust us? Why it could have been 4-2, now it's 3-2." But for Mary, seems like she was shocked at tribal. But yeah, if you thought the votes weren't going your way, you should have just flipped and voted for Stephanie too. Because in the preview for next week, it seems like Say is going to hold a grudge because Mary voted for her.
Hmm.
I did really like Stephanie and Mary's sweaters though. I thought they were so cute.
I really liked Stephanie's. I didn't notice Mary's as much, but Stephanie's was cute.
Yeah, Stephanie's was like big and chunky and green. Mary's is sort of like a cropped green checkered sweater too. I thought next time you'll look at Mary's one.
Next time I will look at Mary's sweater.
So I'm excited for next week. The Purple Tribe seems to be imploding based off the preview. So now I don't know what to do for my fantasy. If I should pick purple team members, or hopefully this is just like Star looking for an idol and that's why they're all freaking out.
I feel like you should pick purple team members and that it's just all idol stuff.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking because I'm like, oh, they're just so strong at challenges. Unless someone's trying to throw one this early, but that would not be smart.
That would not be smart, but also Survivor players have not always been smart.
True. So, Alyssa, did you vote in the thing that they're talking about of choosing things for season 50?
I did indeed vote in the thing about choosing things for season 50. Did you vote in the thing about choosing things for season 50?
I did indeed vote for the thing about choosing things for season 50. I thought it was pretty cool. We got to pick the tribe colors, whether Final Four fire making is in or not, whether there's a live reunion or not. And they picked the colors. That was sort of yada yada. No more Final Four fire making. And I think there will be a live reunion. I think that was the results.
Yeah, I think that was the result as well. I am interested to see whether or not it's always hard to tell with votes like this whether or not they're rigged because I'm kind of like, how do you really know what people did and didn't vote for? Because I think especially like online, people are like, "Oh, everyone that I know voted for like this thing or the other thing." But it's also like you have a biased sample size. Like people that you're talking to are probably like more hardcore Survivor fans than like the average person. So,
I feel like because it's opposite of what is currently happening on Survivor, it might be less rigged because I feel like Jeff is maybe low-key offended that everyone's voting his ideas opposite of what it's been recently. So it'll be very interesting to see past season 50. So for 51, 52, will they also have a live reunion? Will they also not have Final Four fire making? Or is this only a season 50 thing? Because I feel like if the votes are so skewed in one direction, it's sending Jeff and production a message about what fans want.
yeah, but also sometimes people think they know better.
So it'll be very interesting. I'm excited for what the future season 50 votes will be like. Like, okay, will we vote for cast members, like second chance? What other things can we vote on besides like tribe colors, which we already completed? Days of the season, location of the season. Those might be a little bit too much to put in the hands of the people.
Yeah, but also they're doing it far enough ahead. I assume that they like have time to make adjustments to the production schedule. So,
Guess we'll see. I wonder if it'll be a weekly voting thing or if maybe like once a month voting or something. It'll be
I hope
interesting to
it's
see what,
weekly.
yeah, like it'll be interesting to see what the choices are for next week.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe we could vote on like what the challenges are. That would be fun.
Ooh, that would be like, oh, which ones do you want to see back? And then they give you a list of 10, and then it's like those square box ones where you can pick multiple choices.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, good ideas, good ideas. So I'm excited for next week. I think this season is starting off pretty strong and pretty fun. Maybe we want to see Orange team lose. I don't really like seeing the same team lose over and over. So I think Orange can lose next week, and then we can see some more peeps.
Yes. I just feel like in general, I like to see more of the people in general. So I'm excited for next week. I'm excited for the ball to kind of start rolling. I feel like the premiere is kind of like you're at the top of a very large hill. And then, the ball starts rolling and then it doesn't stop until you get to the finale.
Definitely. So I'm excited for the upcoming weeks. Amazing Race is coming back next week. So many good TV shows to watch in no time. But yeah, let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on this premiere episode. What was your favorite part of the episode? What was your least favorite part of the episode? Do you think Green Team should have voted out Say this episode, or was voting out Stephanie the right move here? Thank you all so much for watching.